What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So yeah, some pretty good, exciting news for USC basketball. Their last year's senior, Boogie Ellis, is returning to the team. Apparently, he got a good NIL deal from some of the boosters, whoever got that deal up together for him. So he is getting a nice, paycheck as he's still in college. So he decided to do that instead of trying to go to the NBA, because I guess he probably wasn't going to get picked high or anything like that. So he's probably going to be making more money anyways, coming back for one more year. So that's pretty cool, especially with the likes of Isaiah Collier, who's been doing pretty good at like the McDonald's All-American games. A lot of those type of showcases that have been happening recently, and even he's playing for Team USA and is doing really good as well. So those two playing together in the same backcourt, I really like that, and especially the other bit of news, seeing that the other day, according to On3, a lot of their other stuff, their predictions are that LeBron James's oldest son, is heading towards the direction of choosing USC. There's like a 70+% probability that he will at some point soon. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, he will be going to college later this year. So hoping it'll be pretty cool to have him. A lot more people will be going to the basketball games and supporting the team, which will be nice. And obviously, LeBron will be showing up in that first part of the season as well. So a lot of people will be wanting to go over there. So definitely looking forward to that. And especially him, I don't think he could start if he does join the team, but coming off the bench as like the sixth man, he could be definitely pretty good, because he's obviously a way better shooter than LeBron was at this stage of their careers, but he does need to build up his body a little bit more, become a bit more consistent throughout his entire game as well. So we will see. Of course, I flipped my notes around. How stooge of me. And then, yes, a couple of things that came out, a bit of snippets saying that USC has, I think, the number 7 most first-round picks since the year 2000. I think it was like 120. So that's pretty cool to have the 7 most, and that, I'm pretty sure in the early 2000s, before like 2010, they were leading this category or this stat. But obviously Alabama and those other teams, Georgia, have gotten more guys drafted recently. Doesn't mean they have all been stellar players. Even a lot of USC guys picked high have not been as stellar of players. But even Sam Darnold, who isn't as elite of a quarterback as he was, he's still on the NFL roster. So we will see. So nice stat, a little bit of stat there for USC fans. And then also, I wanted to take this mental picture, the screenshot of what the 2024 football recruiting rankings look like as of this moment. So of course, USC football is not even in the top 25, because they do have one player committed coming in next offseason, but it's not that talented of a player yet, and they're missing out on some guys here and there recently who have made decisions. But even losing out to Aaron Flowers the other day, the safety from Texas, a lot of people still have their predictions set for USC, because yeah, he can say he's going to Oregon or wherever he's choosing right now, but in December and February coming up, he could sign anywhere, and they're still pretty confident that he might still end up going to USC either way. So a lot of these guys can say whatever they want right now, but I think Lincoln Riley will show, especially at the end of this season. Hopefully USC will have a good enough record, and Caleb Williams will show out, have a great season, and they will want to come to be the future of USC football. So hoping all that ends up happening, but we will see. Some pretty big news on the Duke standpoint basketball-wise. So Jeremy Roach, they're pretty much one of their older players, the junior, has decided to declare for the NBA draft, but he is maintaining his eligibility, so he will be able to come back to school after a certain amount of months. I think you get like maybe a couple months right before the draft, which happens around July. Then you'll have like a final deadline to be able to say, yes, I'm still going to stay in the NBA draft, or I will be going back to college. So pretty sure if he's doing that, he probably has 1 foot out, 1 foot in. So there is a possibility for him to return. But honestly, with the type of talent that's coming in and people that are staying already. I don't know if it's a good situation even for him to come back to Duke. He might end up transferring somewhere else as well to get more playing time if he doesn't like where he's going to get selected in the draft, but still a possibility. He could still come back and try to lead this team. I know Quinn Cook, the senior that led Duke during their last championship run in 2015, he was a senior too, so you never know, it could work out. It could have the same type of ending, but we will see. Then DJ Stewart, next Duke player as well, who I think should have stayed at least another 2 or 3 years, but decided to leave after his first year. Got drafted, I think it was by the Kings, kind of was in their G League system and been bouncing around other different D League or G League, whatever you want to call it, but now he's going to be playing. He did sign with the Vancouver Bandits, which I believe is a Canadian basketball league, which I've never truly ever heard of. So it's the first time that I really knew there was a league up there. I know there's leagues in Australia or overseas and all that stuff, Spain and all that. Never heard of one in Canada, which is pretty cool because they have some pretty talented players coming out of there as well. So it's nice to see he's being able to get some playing time up there, staying somewhat close to home. So it's pretty cool. Good luck to him, the ex-Duke player. And then, yes, the players, I wanted to go through some of the players that I've heard that the Chargers have met. I haven't seen like a full list, but this is mostly the list of guys that keep popping up online. So we'll start off with the Jordan Addison, yes, the wide receiver from USC. They did some type of meeting with him, which is pretty cool. Obviously a local guy, pretty much a guy from the same school that I like too, so I'm not mad about it. I think he's a very talented player. It is a bit too much of a redundancy because he is pretty similar to Keenan Allen, who is obviously older, and he will be moving on from Keenan Allen at some point within the next couple years, but I still think he's going to be a very talented player in this league that is Addison. So either way, I think it'd still be a good pickup for the Chargers. They did meet up with a very athletic tight end from Old Dominion in Zach Kuntz. I believe that's how you say the last name. I remember seeing him. He did pretty good throughout the year. I didn't really watch that many Old Dominion games, but they did play the ACC a lot, and I did see a lot of those games, and he went out. He showed out, did a lot of good stats in those playing against the better competition. So yeah, I think even during the combine and all that stuff, he tested really high athleticism wise and is an okay blocker, but I think he's more of the catching tight end like a Kelsey, but even Kelsey learned to block at some point, so that's not too bad. And then the Penn State interior offensive lineman, Juice Scruggs. Obviously that's a great name, Juice is his first name, but he is definitely more of the versatile offensive lineman from that school. He did play center and both sides of the interior offensive line, so it won't be bad to be able to draft a guy like that can play multiple positions for you in case you have injuries, and it's not like you need to teach him anything. He obviously knows what to do, so I think he could be a pretty good pickup. They went with another pretty talented tight end that I've been hearing a lot throughout this draft process in South Dakota State's Tucker Kraft, who he had a pretty good year. I did see some of his stats and everything like that. He's pretty athletic, but he is playing in the second level. It's like Division II with South Dakota State. When they put SDSU, I thought he was a transfer from San Diego State, but it's South Dakota State University. It's still the same acronym or whatever initials you want to call it. But yeah, I've heard him talked about a lot on ESPN by those draft guys, Mel Kiper and other places as well. So he could be a pretty good pickup middle or later in the draft as well. But they did obviously meet with him. Florida linebacker Ventrell Miller. I know that was the more recent guy they met up with. Didn't really hear much about him throughout the year, so he's not really much of a standout. He is more of a project guy, so you will get him later in the draft, like 5th round and on. So we'll see what he can do, but I know he could be athletic and all that stuff, so we'll see. And they lastly met up with a defensive back from Boston College and Jaden Woodby. I want to say that name was from Florida State. I thought there was a Jaden Woodby that went to Florida State who was from California, who USC didn't get, but I could be wrong. Could be a different guy, but if it is the same guy, he's a pretty talented dude. but Boston College, they're kind of known for playing a little bit better defense up there, but the past couple years they have been sucking. I don't think it's from him because I think he just transferred out there if it is the same guy, but we will see. And a big time thing is going on in Arizona where DeAndre Hopkins, their top receiver, apparently has been wanting to get traded out. He requested a trade and doesn't really like the outcome of what's going on out there, especially, his main quarterback is going to be out most likely the first half of the year because he did tear his ACL, Kyle Murray. I think that's what it was. It's pretty crazy because it was non-contact. But I remember before the trade deadline during the season, I know like certain teams were at the top of his list for trade destinations, and I remember the Chargers being up there, and they reiterated that again here, that the Chargers would be one of the top spots he would like to go to, and like Jacksonville, something like that. But I also did read that if they can't find a trade destination for him, because he does have a pretty high contract, like $30-something million this year, then they will release him, so they'll save some money and he'll get some of that money, but he'll also want to sign a cheaper deal, like around $10 million or less. And obviously if he's going to do that for the Chargers, they have enough room. Technically, as of right now, they could do some more moves to free up some more space, but I think it could be a nice get be a great get for Justin Herbert. Yeah, he's not crazy athletic, but his catch radius is unbelievable. He's one of the top, pass catchers out there, most consistent, like amount of targets and all that stuff. Even with Houston playing with some crappy quarterbacks there as well, but he did really good even last year when playing half the season. He missed like the first 6 or 7 games, something like that, because he took some drugs he wasn't supposed to. But either way, if they can get him on a cheap deal like that where he's released and they don't have to trade and have to try to work with that $30-something million contract, I think this could be a game changer for the Chargers offense, in my opinion. And then, yes, when it comes to Jason Tatum, yes, obviously, I'm pretty sure when Tatum's career as a Celtic is all said and done, people will still say guys like Larry Bird or certain guys like that will be the greatest. Obviously, I think Bill Russell is probably the greatest Celtic of all time. That's my opinion. But he is the first Celtic to ever average over 30-plus points a game. I think it was like 30.1 this season that just ended. So congrats to him. Obviously, another record he holds in the Celtics jersey. Obviously, wish he was doing it somewhere else, but congrats to him. Then Trey Jones, I mentioned him the other day because he had a triple-double for the San Antonio Spurs. But once again, he got his second career triple-double the other day. I think it's like his second and third or fourth games, so it's pretty good what he's been doing to end the season. Ended up getting 21 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds as well. So congrats to him, and I'm hoping he gets to have a bit more playing time when it comes to next season with that team, because they definitely need him, because he's obviously showing he can play. Then Mark Williams, an ex-Duke player as well, had a career-high 22 points last night or whenever they played their last game recently, so that was pretty good for him to end the season. Also added 10 rebounds as well. So either way, nice ending. A lot of times, like, Duke players end up having pretty good ends to the season because they don't really play them throughout the year, and then once they let them play in the final game or two, then they all of a sudden start throwing up stats like crazy. So I don't know why they aren't getting playing time ahead of this, but they definitely deserve it. Then the Lakers made a couple of signings yesterday. I forget if it was before or after the game against Utah, but I'm going to talk about these signings before I talk about the game. So they did sign the forward Tristan Thompson, who was with LeBron James in Cleveland, and I think he played with Sacramento. He got traded there, but hasn't really played much recently. Then they also signed a guard in Shaquille Harrison, who I remember he was with their G League team, and I think he played for the preseason and all that stuff. So he's been with the system and everything like that, and I think he played for Portland or something at some point this season. But familiarity going into the playoffs, so that's not too bad. And I think they got it as a depth piece just in case. I know Schroeder has been out, the backup point guard, and Mo Bamba, the guy they traded for from Orlando, has been kind of hurt, but he should be coming back too. but it's just in case, AD has to take on some more stuff during the playoffs. So either way, it's going to help out with Thompson and Harrison in the fold. But getting to those games, so yes, the Lakers played the other day against the Phoenix Suns, but it was pretty much half the Phoenix Suns because all their top players, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton, their top 4 players were all out in that game. So I knew during that game, I told people that if they lose this game somehow to this horrible team that isn't even full of their best players, then I'm literally not watching the rest of the games. And I know there's like one game left, and if they made the playoffs, I still wasn't going to watch, but luckily they did get that victory, 121-107. Austin Reeves went off with 22 points, 5 assists. D'Angelo Russell had 24 points, a couple of threes. Malik Beasley had threes as well with 21 points. They obviously stepped up. I know LeBron and AD played as well, but they didn't end up playing a lot down the stretch because Lakers kind of had it in hand, even though that first half was kind of close, so I stopped watching because I was getting too frustrated. But yes, luckily the Lakers are able to get that victory. Then moving on to last night's game, the final one against Utah, they ended up getting that victory 128-117 to end the season. Like I said, LeBron James had 38 points, 8 threes on the night, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and Anthony Davis had a lot of blocks as well. He didn't show up points-wise, but I think he's just saving that for the playoffs and kind of being that defensive anchor and focusing on that as of right now, especially in that game because you're able to work on that. But obviously in the playoffs and in the game Tuesday, he will definitely be needed as well. But speaking of that game Tuesday, I think I kind of I skipped over that. So yes, the Lakers did make the playoffs as the number 7 seed. They will be playing against number 8 seed Minnesota in LA. So obviously they have the advantage of playing at home. They don't have the opportunity to move up any higher. They can move lower. If they lose the game and win the next game, they will play against Denver, the number 1 seed, which is an okay matchup. I think it'll be a little bit tougher to beat that team in the first round. But if they win and they're still the 7th seed, then they will play against the Memphis Grizzlies, who have kind of been pretty much up and down going towards the end of this season. All that John Morant's stuff, off the court that was happening. And then just their chemistry as well has been kind of weird. So I'm kind of okay more playing them. So I'm kind of hoping that the Lakers win, but you never know. They could be losing on purpose and think they can beat Denver in the first round in their heads. So you never know what's going to happen. But either way, they do play Minnesota Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. Hoping for a victory, but you never know. So yeah. Other than that, it's pretty much how it goes. So yeah, nothing much to talk about. But yeah, thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.